She found a little girl dying in an alley, gasping for air with an emergency number sewn into her backpack. She called it. The voice on the other end said, "Don't leave her side." "I'm coming now." What she didn't know, the man racing toward her was a mafia boss who'd been betrayed by his own blood. And she'd just become the only person his daughter would trust to stay alive. The fluorescent lights of the Golden Star Diner buzzed like dying insects at 2 in the morning. Ava wiped down the last booth, her lower back screaming after 9 hours on her feet. The graveyard shift paid an extra $1.50 per hour, which meant she could almost cover her mother's medication this month. Almost. "Lock up when you leave, Ava," called Marcus, the night cook, already halfway out the back door with his jacket over his shoulder. "And don't forget to." A sound cut through the night.
Faint. Desperate.
Ava froze, dish rag still in her hand. There it was again. A child's cry, barely louder than a whisper, coming from somewhere outside. "You hear that?" she asked, but Marcus was gone, the door swinging shut behind him. The sound came again, weaker this time. A thin, rattling gasp that made Ava's chest tighten with recognition. She'd heard that sound before, years ago, when her nephew had his first asthma attack at a family barbecue. She dropped the rag and moved toward the back door, her worn sneakers squeaking on the tile floor. The diner's owner, Mr. Chin, had warned her a dozen times about going into the alley alone at night. Downtown Los Angeles after dark was no place for a woman by herself. But that sound, that desperate, drowning sound, pulled her forward like a rope around her ribs. The back door creaked open. Cool November air hit her face, carrying the smell of rain and garbage. The alley stretched before her, lit only by a single flickering bulb above the dumpster. "Hello," Ava called out, her voice echoing off the brick walls. "Is someone there?" Silence. Then, so quiet she almost missed it, a wheeze, followed by a broken sob. Ava's eyes adjusted to the darkness. There, huddled between 2 trash bags near the loading dock, was a small figure in a pink raincoat. A child. Ava's heart slammed against her ribs as she rushed forward, her knees hitting the wet pavement. The girl couldn't have been more than 5 or 6 years old, with straight black hair plastered to her tear-streaked face. Her lips had a frightening blue tint, and her tiny chest heaved with each struggled breath. "Baby, hey, look at me," Ava said, her hands hovering over the child, unsure where to touch, how to help. "What's wrong? Where's your mama?" The girl's eyes were unfocused, glassy with panic. She clutched something in her trembling hand, a blue inhaler, but seemed too weak to use it. A small backpack with cartoon rabbits on it lay beside her in a puddle. "Papa," the girl whispered in a voice like crumpled paper.
"Papa, please."
Then her eyes rolled back, and she began to slump sideways.
No.
Ava caught her before she hit the concrete, pulling the small body against her chest. The girl was burning up with fever, her breathing coming in horrible, whistling gasps. "Stay with me, baby. Stay with me." Ava grabbed the inhaler from the girl's limp fingers, shook it once, and pressed it to the child's blue lips. She'd done this before with her nephew. 2 puffs.
Wait.
2 more. The girl coughed weakly, but her breathing didn't improve. Ava's mind raced. Call 911. She needed to call 911 right now. But as she shifted the girl to reach for her phone, her eyes landed on the backpack. Something told her to look inside. With one arm cradling the child, Ava yanked open the backpack with her free hand. Inside were a stuffed rabbit, a juice box, crackers, and there, sewn into the inner lining with careful stitches, a small patch of fabric with a phone number embroidered in silver thread. Emergency contact. Ava's fingers shook as she pulled out her phone and dialed, praying someone would answer at this ungodly hour. 1 ring. 2 rings. 3. "Who is this?" A man's voice, deep and sharp as a blade, answered in English with a heavy Japanese accent. There was noise in the background, shouting car engines. My name is Ava. I work at the Golden Star Diner on 7th Street downtown, and I just found a little girl in the alley. She's having some kind of asthma attack, and she's burning up, and I don't know what to describe her. The man's voice cracked like a whip, cutting through her panic. She's maybe 5 or 6, Japanese, black hair, pink raincoat. She has a backpack with rabbits and... A sound came through the phone that made Ava's blood run cold. It was something between a roar and a sob. Raw and animal. Don't move. Don't leave her side. Is she breathing? Barely, Ava said, looking down at the girl's face. I gave her the inhaler, but it's not. Listen to me very carefully. The man's voice was iron now, controlled but vibrating with barely contained fury. My daughter needs her emergency medication. It's a different inhaler, red, not blue. Check the backpack again. Front pocket. Ava fumbled with the zipper, and there it was, a red inhaler with Japanese characters on the side. Got it. 2 puffs. Wait 30 seconds.
2 more.
Do it now. Ava followed his instructions, her hands steadier now with someone guiding her. This time, after the second round, the girl's breathing began to ease. Her lips started to lose that terrifying blue color. It's working, Ava breathed. Oh God, it's working. What is your exact location? The man's voice was already moving. She could hear it. Doors slamming. Engines starting. Golden Star Diner, 742, West 7th Street, between Olive and Grand. The alley behind the building. I'm 17 minutes away. Text this number the address. Do not call an ambulance. Do not let anyone take her. Do you understand me? Something in his tone made her next question stick in her throat, but she forced it out anyway. Who are you? A pause. Then, I'm her father. And when I find out who left my daughter in an alley to die, they will wish they had never been born. The line went dead. Ava sat there in the wet alley, cradling a stranger's child, and felt the night shift around her like a living thing. The rain began to fall in earnest now, cold drops that soaked through her uniform. She grabbed the chair from near the dumpster, Marcus's smoke break chair, and dragged it against the brick wall where the overhang offered some shelter. She sat down, wrapping her arms around the little girl, tucking her inside her jacket as much as possible. The girl's breathing was better now, but she was still frighteningly hot and barely conscious. Her small hand clutched at Ava's shirt, fingers twisted in the fabric like she was afraid of falling. I got you, baby, Ava whispered, rocking slightly. Your papa's coming.
He's on his way.
You just hold on for me, okay? Just hold on. Somewhere in the distance, sirens wailed. The city breathed its toxic breath. And Ava sat in the rain, holding someone else's miracle, and wondered what kind of father inspired that much terror in his own voice. She didn't have to wonder long. 16.5 minutes later, 3 black SUVs with tinted windows screamed into the alley like black lightning, and Ava's normal life ended forever. The SUVs didn't park. They attacked the alley like predators, tires screeching, headlights cutting through the rain like searchlights. Ava's arms instinctively tightened around the little girl as 6 men in dark suits poured out before the vehicles even stopped moving. They moved with military precision, 2 immediately flanking the alley entrances, scanning the streets with hands inside their jackets.
Guns.
Ava's stomach dropped. These men were carrying guns. The back door of the center SUV opened, and a man stepped out. He was tall, lean, maybe in his mid-30s, with jet black hair swept back from a face that looked like it had been carved from stone and rage. He wore an expensive charcoal suit that somehow wasn't wrinkled despite the obvious rush. But it was his eyes that made Ava's breath catch, dark, burning with an intensity that made her want to look away and unable to at the same time. His gaze locked onto the small figure in Ava's arms, and his entire face transformed. The dangerous mask cracked, revealing something raw and terrified underneath. Hannah, he breathed, and suddenly he was moving, crossing the distance in 3 long strides. He dropped to his knees in front of Ava, expensive suit hitting the wet concrete without hesitation, and his hands, surprisingly gentle for someone who radiated such controlled violence, reached for his daughter. Papa's here, little flower, he said in Japanese, his voice breaking. Papa's here now. Hannah's eyes fluttered open. Papa, she whispered, and started to cry, real tears now, not the gasping panic from before. He gathered her into his arms, pressing his face against her damp hair, his shoulders shaking once before he forced himself still. When he looked up at Ava, his eyes were wet, but his voice was steady. You gave her the red inhaler? Yes, just like you said. 2 puffs, waited, 2 more. He nodded, his jaw tight. That saved her life. The blue one, it's the wrong medication. It would have made it worse, his eyes darkened. Someone switched them. The weight of those words hung in the rain between them. One of the suited men approached, speaking rapid Japanese. The father, Ava still didn't know his name, responded without looking away from Hannah, his tone sharp and commanding. The man bowed and jogged back to the SUV. We need to move her now, he said, standing with Hannah cradled against his chest. There's a private medical unit in the vehicle. As if summoned by his words, the back of the largest SUV opened, and Ava saw it had been converted into a mobile medical bay. A woman in scrubs was already preparing equipment, an oxygen mask in her hands. They moved quickly, the father laying Hannah on the small gurney inside. The nurse, or doctor, Ava couldn't tell, immediately began checking vitals, adjusting oxygen flow. Through it all, Hannah's eyes stayed fixed on one person. Not her father.
Ava.
Please, Hannah whispered, her small hand reaching out past her father, past the medical professional, stretching toward the black woman in the wet diner uniform standing in the rain. Don't go. Please don't go. The father froze, his hand on Hannah's forehead. He turned slowly to look at Ava, and something shifted in his expression, confusion, followed by understanding, followed by a decision. What's your name? He asked.
Ava.
Ava Thompson. Ava Thompson, he repeated, as if testing the weight of it. My daughter doesn't trust easily. She hasn't spoken to anyone outside family since her mother died 2 years ago. He glanced back at Hannah, who was still reaching for Ava, tears streaming down her feverish cheeks. But she trusts you. He looked back at Ava, and she saw the request before he spoke it. No, Ava said immediately, taking a step back. I helped her because she needed help, but I don't know you, I don't know what's happening here, and I need to. Someone tried to kill my daughter tonight, he said quietly, but with such barely controlled fury that Ava felt it like a physical force. They took her from her nanny. They switched her medication, hoping she would die before anyone found her. They left her in an alley like garbage, his hands clenched into fists. I don't know who yet, but I know they're still looking for her. And right now, she's terrified and asking for you. Ava looked at Hannah, really looked at her. The little girl's eyes were wide and desperate, her small chest still heaving despite the oxygen mask now covering her nose and mouth. Her fingers kept reaching, grasping at air. Ava thought of her nephew. She thought of her own daughter, who she'd lost to the foster system 3 years ago because she couldn't afford both rent and a lawyer. She thought about all the children who reached for help and found empty air. How long? Ava heard herself ask. Until we reach the secure medical facility. 30 minutes. Maybe less. Ava knew it was a lie. She knew 30 minutes would become longer. Knew that stepping into that vehicle would change everything. She could feel it in her bones, the way you feel a storm coming. But Hannah's hand was still reaching. Okay, Ava whispered. Okay. The father's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes softened. Just for a moment. Thank you. He gestured to the SUV, and Ava climbed in, moving to sit beside the gurney. Immediately, Hannah's hand found hers, small fingers wrapping around Ava's larger ones with surprising strength. The father climbed in after her, sitting on the opposite side. The door slammed shut. Drive, he ordered. Route 7. Watch for tails. The SUV lurched forward, and Ava realized she didn't even know his name. As if reading her mind, he spoke without looking at her, his eyes fixed on his daughter.
I'm Hiroshi Tekida.
And you just became the most important person in my daughter's life. The convoy pulled out of the alley, 3 black SUVs sliding into Los Angeles traffic like sharks into dark water. Ava held Hannah's hand and wondered what she'd just agreed to. She would find out much sooner than expected. The inside of the SUV smelled like leather and antiseptic. Medical monitors beeped softly as the vehicle glided through empty downtown streets, moving fast but smooth. Ava watched colored lights streak past the tinted windows, red, yellow, green, the city reduced to abstract blurs. Hannah's grip on her hand hadn't loosened. The medical professional, a woman who'd introduced herself only as Dr. Sato, worked efficiently, replacing the oxygen mask with a smaller nasal cannula, checking Hannah's temperature, administering what looked like a breathing treatment through a small nebulizer. "Fever's dropping," Dr. Sato reported in crisp English. "Breathing is stabilizing. But she needs full observation." The attack was severe. Hiroshi nodded once, his jaw tight. He'd been on his phone for the past 10 minutes, speaking rapid-fire Japanese in a voice that oscillated between icy command and barely restrained violence. Ava caught only one word she recognized, repeated 3 times. "Nanny."
What?
He ended the call and finally looked at Ava directly. "The nanny is gone," he said flatly. "Disappeared. Her apartment is empty. Bank account cleared this morning." His fingers drummed once against his knee, the only sign of agitation. "She worked for my family for 3 years. I trusted her with my daughter's life. You think she's the one who—" "I think someone paid her very well to leave Hannah somewhere she wouldn't be found in time." His eyes were black ice. "They chose wrong. They didn't account for you." The SUV made a sharp turn. Ava looked out the window and realized they weren't heading toward any hospital she recognized. They were moving toward the warehouse district near the port. "Where are we going?" "Private facility. Safer than." The impact came without warning. A black van slammed into their left side, with a sound like the world ending. Ava's head snapped sideways, her seatbelt cutting into her chest. The SUV spun, tires screaming against asphalt. "Hold her," Dr. Sato shouted. Ava threw herself forward, her body covering Hannah's as the vehicle fishtailed. The little girl's scream was muffled against Ava's chest. Then came the gunfire. Pop, 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 sharp cracks that punched through metal. The rear window exploded into diamonds of safety glass. Ava felt something hot whip past her ear.
Down.
"Everyone down," Hiroshi roared, pulling a gun from inside his jacket, a black pistol that appeared in his hand like magic. The driver swerved hard right, throwing them all sideways. Ava caught a glimpse through the shattered window of 2 black vans boxing them in, men hanging out the windows with automatic weapons. This wasn't a random attack. This was an execution. Hiroshi's men in the other SUVs returned fire, the night erupting into chaos. Muzzle flashes lit up the darkness like lightning. Ava kept herself draped over Hannah, feeling the little girl's heart hammering against her own ribs like a trapped bird. "They're tracking us," one of Hiroshi's men shouted from the front seat. "The medical equipment," Dr. Sato said suddenly, her voice cutting through the panic. "The monitors, they're broadcasting to the hospital network for remote observation." Someone could have hacked the signal. Hiroshi's face went deadly calm, the kind of calm that preceded violence. "Turn it off. All of it.
Now."
Dr. Sato's hands flew over the equipment, shutting down systems. The beeping stopped. The cabin went eerily quiet except for the roar of engines and gunfire. "Take Highway 110 south," Hiroshi commanded. "Then cut west toward Long Beach. We need to disappear." The driver yanked the wheel, and they shot down an on-ramp, the other 2 SUVs following. The pursuing vans tried to follow, but one of Hiroshi's vehicles dropped back, deliberately slowing to create a barrier. More gunfire erupted behind them. Ava risked a glance up. Hiroshi was twisted in his seat, gun trained on the rear, his face a mask of controlled fury. But when he glanced down at Hannah, something cracked in that mask. "Is she hurt?" His voice was rough. "She's okay," Ava said, though her own voice shook. "I've got her. She's okay." Hannah whimpered, and Ava started humming. She didn't even know what song, just something her own mother used to hum when Ava was scared. Some old gospel melody about protection and grace. Incredibly, Hannah's breathing started to even out. They drove in tense silence for 5 more minutes, weaving through streets, doubling back, checking constantly for pursuit. Finally, Hiroshi spoke into his phone in Japanese, listened, then ended the call. We lost them. For now, he looked at Dr. Sato. How long can she go without the full medical setup? An hour, maybe 2. But she needs proper treatment, Takeda-san. Her fever. I know, he rubbed his face, and for the first time, Ava saw how exhausted he was. How scared. There's an emergency station near the docks. We'll stop there. He looked at Ava, and something in his expression made her stomach drop. You were supposed to be in that vehicle for 30 minutes. I'm sorry. This is now much more complicated. Who's trying to kill your daughter? Ava demanded, her fear finally converting to anger. What did you do? Hiroshi was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was soft but heavy with old sins. I was born into the Yakuza, the Takeda-gumi clan. I spent 15 years in that world before I tried to leave, to build something legitimate here in America for Hannah's sake. He looked down at his daughter, sleeping fitfully against Ava's chest. But my family, my blood family, they don't believe in leaving. They believe in loyalty. Or death. The SUV pulled off the highway, heading toward the industrial waterfront where the Pacific Ocean met the broken edge of the city. Someone in my own clan, Hiroshi continued, wants me to come back. Or they want me dead. And they're willing to use my daughter to make it happen. Ava looked down at Hannah's peaceful face, at this innocent child caught in a war she didn't choose. So, what do we do? Ava whispered. Hiroshi's eyes met hers, and she saw the warrior beneath the father. We make sure they regret ever touching her. The abandoned gas station sat like a forgotten tomb at the edge of Long Beach, its broken sign reading GLF in flickering neon. Weeds pushed through cracked concrete, and the smell of salt water mixed with rust and old petroleum. It was the kind of place people drove past without seeing. Perfect. The 3 SUVs pulled around back, hidden from the road by an old service garage. The moment they stopped, Hiroshi's men moved like a military unit, 2 securing the perimeter, 1 checking the building, another positioning a vehicle to block the entrance. Dr. Sato grabbed her emergency medical bag. Get her inside. Quickly. They moved Hannah into what used to be the station's office. Someone had been here before. There were supplies stacked in the corner, bottled water, blankets, a camping lantern. A safe house, Ava realized. Hiroshi had safe houses scattered across the city, like hidden chess pieces. Dr. Sato laid Hannah on a makeshift bed of folded blankets, immediately checking her vitals with portable equipment. Temperatures still elevated. Respiratory rate better, but not normal. She needs the full treatment. She pulled out a different inhaler, a small breathing apparatus, and several medication vials. Ava watched as she administered each one with practiced efficiency, explaining nothing but moving with absolute certainty. Hiroshi stood in the doorway, phone pressed to his ear, his voice a low, dangerous rumble. Ava caught fragments. How did they find us so fast? Check everyone. I don't care who they are. Someone in the inner circle is talking. Find them. He ended the call and turned to find Ava watching him. You should leave, he said quietly. There's a car waiting. My men will take you home. You'll be paid for your time and trouble. Generously. Ava looked down at Hannah, whose small hand had found hers again, even in sleep. Does she have anyone else? Ava asked. Besides you? Something flickered across Hiroshi's face. Her mother died in a car accident 2 years ago. Brake lines were cut. I didn't realize it wasn't an accident until much later. His hands clenched. She has me. She has men who would die for her. But people she can just be safe with?
No.
Then I'm staying. You don't understand what you're. I held your daughter while people shot at us. Ava interrupted, her voice harder than she'd ever heard it. I think I understand just fine. Hiroshi studied her for a long moment, then nodded once. Thank you. One of his men appeared in the doorway, a younger guy with a scar across his cheek. He spoke in rapid Japanese, and Ava watched Hiroshi's expression shift from controlled to volcanic. English, Hiroshi snapped. She needs to hear this. The young man glanced at Ava, then back to his boss. We found the nanny. Or what's left of her. Harbor Patrol pulled her body from the water an hour ago. Execution style. Single shot. Ava's stomach turned. She was paid to betray us, the young man continued, but whoever hired her didn't want loose ends. We also found this. He held up a phone in a plastic bag. Text messages. The coordination was perfect. They knew our route before we left your estate. They knew about the medical equipment broadcast. They knew everything. Hiroshi's face could have been carved from stone. Who else had access to that information? Only family, boss. Only the inner circle. The words hung in the stale air like poison. Hiroshi turned away, his shoulders rigid. When he spoke, his voice was quiet, but Ava heard the violence underneath, coiled and ready. My cousin, Kenji. Takeda-sen, we don't know for certain. It's him. Hiroshi's fist slammed into the wall, leaving a dent in the drywall. He's been pushing me to return to Japan, to honor the family legacy. When I refused, when I told him I was building legitimate businesses here, he laughed, but there was no humor in it. He called me a traitor, said I was making the Takeda name weak. So, he took your daughter? Ava couldn't keep the disbelief from her voice. His own family? Hiroshi turned back to her, and his eyes were empty of everything except cold purpose. In the Yakuza, family is only sacred when it serves power. My cousin wants control of the American operations. With Hannah gone, and me consumed by grief or revenge, he'd have it. His jaw tightened. He miscalculated. Badly. Dr. Sato looked up from Hannah. She's stable now, but she needs rest. Real rest in a safe place. Nowhere safe, Hiroshi said. Not while Kenji has resources deployed. He'll have people watching every property I own, every hospital, every... He stopped, his eyes distant, calculating. We need to move.
Now.
Get her ready. She just stabilized, Dr. Sato protested. Moving her again. Staying here will kill her faster. Hiroshi was already moving toward the door, barking orders in Japanese. His men scattered like leaves in wind. Ava watched the organized chaos, feeling the walls closing in. Where are we going? Hiroshi looked back at her, and she saw something she didn't expect in his eyes. Uncertainty. The only place Kenji won't think to look. Somewhere so obvious he'll assume I'd never be that reckless. Where? Malibu. I have a house on the cliffs. It's in my late wife's name, purchased before we came to America. Only she and I knew about it. His voice softened. It was supposed to be our escape. Our fresh start. 2 of his men returned, carrying what looked like outdoor camping gear and emergency supplies from the SUVs. We can't take the vehicles, Hiroshi explained. They're compromised. If Kenji has someone inside, he'll be tracking them. He gestured to the back of the garage where a large commercial truck sat, the kind used for produce deliveries. We disappear. Completely. Ava looked at the truck, then at Hannah's small, feverish form. You want to transport a sick child in the back of a produce truck? I want my daughter to live through the night, Hiroshi said simply. This is how we make that happen. Dr. Sato carefully wrapped Hannah in blankets, portable medical equipment packed efficiently into a backpack. Hiroshi lifted his daughter with the kind of gentleness that seemed impossible from a man who just punched through a wall. They moved to the truck. Someone had already prepared the cargo area. Blankets spread across the floor, battery-powered lights strung along the sides, the back doors modified to open from inside. It looked like a refugee's escape vehicle, which, Ava realized, is exactly what they were. Hiroshi climbed in first, settling Hannah onto the makeshift bed. Dr. Sato followed, then Ava. 2 of Hiroshi's men would ride up front. The rest would scatter in different directions, creating false trails. As the truck's engine rumbled to life, Ava felt the full weight of what was happening. Somewhere in this city, a man who shared Hiroshi's blood was hunting his own niece. And Ava, a waitress who just wanted to finish her shift and go home, was now hiding in the back of a truck, holding a child who wasn't hers, running from killers she couldn't see. The truck lurched forward, and they rolled into the darkness, leaving the gas station behind. Hannah stirred, her eyes opening briefly. Ava. I'm here, baby. Right here.
Will you?
Sing again? Like before. Ava's throat tightened, but she started humming that old gospel song, her voice soft in the darkness of the truck. Across from her, Hiroshi sat with his gun in his lap and his eyes on the metal doors, watching for enemies that could come from anywhere. They had 45 minutes to Malibu. An eternity in hell. The truck moved through Los Angeles like a ghost, taking back roads and industrial routes where security cameras were sparse and questions were never asked. Inside the cargo hold, the darkness pressed close, broken only by the weak glow of battery-powered lights that swung gently with each turn. Ava kept humming, keeping her voice steady even as her hands trembled. Hannah had fallen into a restless sleep, her small body curled against Ava's side. Dr. Sato monitored her constantly, checking pulse, temperature, oxygen levels with quiet efficiency. Hiroshi sat across from them, his back against the metal wall, gun resting on his thigh. His eyes never stopped moving, door, ceiling vents, his daughter, back to the door. The hypervigilance of someone who'd survived by never assuming safety. How long were you in the Yakuza? Ava asked quietly, needing something to fill the oppressive silence. Hiroshi was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, born into it. My grandfather built the Takeda Gumi from nothing in Osaka. My father expanded into Tokyo, then international operations. I was groomed from childhood to take over. He looked at his hands. I was very good at what they needed me to be good at, which was enforcement, strategy, intimidation. His voice was flat, reciting facts. I made people afraid. I made problems disappear. By 25, I was running the West Coast operations, drugs, protection, gambling, weapons. He finally looked up at her. I was a monster in an expensive suit. What changed? Yuki, his voice softened around the name. My wife. She was a violinist, completely separate from that world. I met her at a concert I'd been forced to attend for appearances. She looked at me like I was just a man, not a weapon. He touched the wedding ring still on his finger. She made me want to be just a man. Dr. Sato glanced up but said nothing, her face carefully neutral. We ran, Hiroshi continued. Left Japan, came here. I used legitimate money I'd hidden away to start real businesses, restaurants, import companies, real estate. Nothing illegal. Nothing that would touch her or Hannah. His jaw tightened. But the Takeda Gumi doesn't accept resignations. My father died 3 years ago, and my cousin Kenji took over. He wanted me back, said the American operations needed proper leadership when I refused. He killed your wife. Made it look like an accident. I couldn't prove it, but I knew. Hiroshi's hand tightened on the gun. I've been careful ever since. Protected Hannah with everything I had. Or thought I did. The truck hit a pothole, jostling everyone. Hannah whimpered but didn't wake. Temperatures dropping more, Dr. Sato reported. That's good. But her breathing is still labored. She needs proper rest soon. Hiroshi nodded, then froze. His phone was vibrating, not ringing, just a single long vibration. He looked at the screen, and his face went pale.
What?
Ava asked. Emergency alert. From my head of security. He read quickly, his expression darkening with each word. 3 of my businesses hit simultaneously 20 minutes ago. Coordinated attacks. My restaurant in Little Tokyo, firebombed. My warehouse in San Pedro, raided by people claiming to be federal agents, but with no paperwork. My office downtown ransacked. Kenji, Dr. Sato said quietly. Sending a message. Showing me he can destroy everything I've built while hunting my daughter. Hiroshi's voice was cold fury. He wants me panicked. Desperate. Making mistakes. Is it working? Ava asked. Hiroshi looked at her, then at Hannah sleeping against her side.
No.
It's making me focus. The truck slowed, then stopped. Ava's heart jumped into her throat, but Hiroshi held up a hand. Wait. One knock on the metal wall.
Pause.
2 more knocks. Then 3. Hiroshi relaxed slightly. Our driver. We're at the Malibu house. The back doors swung open, revealing not daylight, but the deep blue of pre-dawn darkness. They were parked inside a garage, the door already closing behind them. Smart. No one outside would have seen them arrive. The driver, a stocky man with gray in his temples, helped them out. Perimeter's clear, boss. No signs of surveillance. Building's been empty since Mrs. Takeda passed. Hiroshi carried Hana out, and Ava followed, her legs stiff from sitting. They were in a residential garage, but she could hear the ocean, close, powerful, eternal. The house beyond was modest by California standards, maybe 3 bedrooms, contemporary design with lots of glass facing the water. But it sat alone on a cliff, surrounded by native plants and privacy walls. Isolated. Safe. Maybe. Dr. Sato immediately began setting up a proper medical station in the master bedroom. Hiroshi laid Hana on the bed, a real bed, with soft sheets that smelled like lavender and dust. Someone had been maintaining this place, keeping it ready. There's food in the kitchen, Hiroshi told Ava. Bathroom is through there. You should rest while you can. What about you? I need to make calls. Plan next moves. He looked out the window at the Pacific, lightening from black to deep purple as dawn approached. And figure out how to kill my cousin without starting a war that destroys everything I've built. He said it so matter-of-factly that Ava almost missed the weight of it. You're really going to kill him? Hiroshi turned to face her, and his eyes held nothing but cold certainty. He tried to murder my 5-year-old daughter. Left her in an alley to suffocate alone and afraid. His voice never rose, but every word carried death in it.
Yes.
I'm going to kill him. The only question is how many of his people I take with him. Dr. Sato emerged from the bedroom.
She's resting.
Vitals are better. But Takeda-san, she hesitated. She keeps asking for Ava. Even in her sleep, Ava felt something twist in her chest. I'll sit with her. You should sleep, Hiroshi said. So should you. But we both know neither of us will. Ava moved past him toward the bedroom. I'll watch Hana. You plan your war. She didn't wait for his response. Inside the bedroom, Hana lay small and fragile against white sheets, her breathing easier now but still not right. Ava settled into the chair beside the bed, taking the little girl's hand. Through the window, the sun began to rise over the Pacific, painting the sky in shades of gold and blood. In the living room, she could hear Hiroshi speaking in rapid Japanese, his voice hard and strategic. Dr. Sato moved quietly through the house, organizing supplies, preparing for emergencies. And Ava sat holding a stranger's child, watching dawn break over the ocean, and wondered how a graveyard shift at a diner had led to this, hiding in a dead woman's house while gangsters plotted murder in the next room. Hana's fingers tightened around hers. Don't go, the little girl whispered without opening her eyes. I won't, Ava promised, though she had no idea if it was a promise she could keep. Outside, the Pacific crashed against the cliffs with the same rhythm it had for millennia, indifferent, eternal, unstoppable. Like the violence that was coming. The peace lasted exactly 3 hours. Ava had dozed off in the chair, her head tilted at an awkward angle, when Hiroshi's hand on her shoulder jerked her awake. His face was grim, and he was holding his phone like a weapon. We need to leave.
Now. What?
Why? Ava looked at Hana, still sleeping, her color finally looking healthy. Bounty hunters, Hiroshi's voice was clipped, efficient. Kenji put out a contract, $5 million for Hana's location. Cash, no questions. My informant just sent me screenshots from the dark web forums. Every mercenary and desperate criminal in Southern California is looking for a small Japanese girl with a black woman and a man matching my description. Dr. Sato appeared in the doorway, already packing medical supplies with practice speed. How did they narrow it down to this area? Ava asked, standing up carefully to avoid waking Hana. They didn't.
Not yet.
But they're running a grid search. Santa Monica, Venice, Malibu, all the coastal areas. Someone saw the produce truck heading this direction. It's only a matter of time. He moved to the window, peering through the blinds at the empty road below. 3 separate teams are working their way up the coast. We have maybe 40 minutes before they reach this neighborhood. She just stabilized, Ava protested. Moving her again is the only way she stays alive. Hiroshi turned to face her, and his expression was iron. I know you care about her. That's why I need you to trust me. We move now, or we die here. Ava looked down at Hannah, finally peaceful after hours of struggle. The thought of waking her, dragging her back into danger, made her chest ache. But the thought of men with guns finding them here made it ache worse. Where do we go? Somewhere Kenji would never expect. Somewhere completely out of his operational zone. Hiroshi's mouth curved in something that wasn't quite a smile. Las Vegas. Vegas. Ava couldn't hide her surprise. That's hours away. 3.5 by car. But we're not taking a car, he checked his watch. There's a small airfield in Oxnard, private planes, minimal security, owned by someone who owes me a favor. We can be wheels up in 90 minutes. And how do we get to Oxnard without being seen? Hiroshi gestured out the window. On the street below, a refrigerated produced truck was backing into the driveway. Different company, different plates, but the same desperate solution. You can't be serious, Ava said. The bounty hunters are looking for luxury vehicles, armed escorts, obvious protection. They're not looking for produced delivery. Hiroshi moved to the bed and carefully scooped up Hannah, who stirred but didn't wake. We have to go.
Now.
They moved through the house like shadows. Dr. Sato grabbed 2 bags of emergency medical supplies. Ava took the backpack with Hannah's inhaler and stuffed rabbit. Hiroshi carried his daughter like she was made of glass and dynamite simultaneously. The truck's refrigeration unit was off, thank God, but it was still cold inside the cargo area. Someone had prepared it: blankets, pillows, bottles of water, a portable heater that ran on batteries. The driver gave Hiroshi a subtle nod and closed the doors without a word. Darkness again. They settled into the cramped space, Hiroshi cradling Hannah while Dr. Sato arranged their supplies. Ava found herself pressed against the metal wall as the truck rumbled to life and pulled out of the driveway. This is insane, she whispered. This is survival, Hiroshi corrected. There's a difference. The truck accelerated, heading back toward the highway. Inside the cargo hold, the battery-powered heater hummed softly, fighting the cold. Hannah woke up slowly, confused and disoriented.
Papa?
Where? Show, little flower. We're just taking a trip. Ava's here.
See?
He angled her so she could see Ava in the dim light. Hannah's eyes found Ava's face, and she relaxed immediately. Are we safe? Ava opened her mouth, unsure what to say, but Hiroshi answered first. We will be. I promise. It was a promise that felt too big for anyone to make, but Hannah accepted it with the simple faith of children who still believe their parents can fix anything. The truck drove for 20 minutes, taking what felt like random turns, doubling back, creating a maze of movements designed to lose any potential followers. Then, finally, it settled into a steady rhythm, highway driving, heading north. In the darkness, Hannah started to shiver despite the heater. Dr. Sato checked her temperature with concern. She's cold but not feverish. Probably just shock and exhaustion. She pulled out another blanket, wrapping it around Hannah's small frame. She needs rest. Real rest. And soon. 6 hours, Hiroshi said. 6 hours and we'll be in Vegas. I have a secure location there, a penthouse owned through so many shell companies, even I barely remember the chain. Kenji doesn't know about it. And if he finds out? Ava asked. Then we keep running. Hiroshi's voice was flat, exhausted. For as long as it takes. Ava looked at him, really looked at him. The expensive suit was rumpled now, stained with dirt and sweat. His hair had fallen out of place. There were dark circles under his eyes that spoke of days without sleep. He looked like a man being torn apart by the choice between his honor and his daughter's life. What's the endgame here? Ava asked quietly, conscious of Hannah listening. You can't run forever. No, Hiroshi agreed. Eventually, I'll have to face Kenji. But not until Hannah is somewhere he can never reach her. He looked down at his daughter. I have resources he doesn't know about. People loyal to me, not the clan. Once she's hidden, truly hidden, then I'll deal with my cousin. Deal with, Ava repeated. You mean kill? I mean end the threat. Permanently, there was no hesitation in his voice. He made this personal when he touched my daughter. There are rules, even in our world. Children are off limits. He violated that. There will be consequences. The truck hit a bump, and they all swayed together in the darkness. Hannah's voice came out small and scared.
Ava?
Will you sing again? Ava's throat was dry, her body exhausted, her mind screaming that this was all impossible. But she started humming anyway. That same gospel song, the one about protection and grace that her mother sang when the world got too heavy. Hiroshi closed his eyes, his hand on his daughter's back, feeling her breathe. Dr. Sato checked medical supplies for the 100th time, and Ava sang in the back of a produced truck, racing north toward a city built on desperate gambles, carrying a child caught between two men's war. Outside, California rolled past, farms and suburbs and lives that had nothing to do with Yakuza cousins or $5 million bounties or little girls fighting to breathe. Normal lives. The kind Ava had woken up to just yesterday morning. A lifetime ago. Hannah's breathing evened out as sleep took her again. Ava kept singing, her voice soft in the metallic darkness, until she felt Hiroshi's eyes on her. Thank you, he said quietly, for staying. For all of this. I don't think I had much choice, Ava replied, but there was no bitterness in it. Just exhaustion.
You did.
You have a choice every moment. Hiroshi's voice was serious. You could have walked away a dozen times. But you didn't. She needed me. Yes, Hiroshi agreed. And that's why, when this is over, you'll never want for anything again. I'll make sure of it. Ava looked at him in the dim light. I don't want your money. Then what do you want? Ava looked down at Hannah, peaceful in sleep, and felt something crack open in her chest. I want her to be okay. That's all.
Just.
Okay. Hiroshi studied her for a long moment, and something in his expression shifted. Respect, maybe, or recognition. Then we want the same thing, he said. The truck drove on through the morning, carrying its strange cargo toward whatever came next. 3 hours to Oxnard. Then Vegas. Then, somehow, safety. If such a thing still existed. The ocean disappeared behind them as the truck turned inland, trading salt air for dust and heat. When the doors finally opened, they were in a small private airfield surrounded by brown hills and scrub brush. A white Cessna sat on the tarmac, engine already running, pilot visible through the cockpit window. Hiroshi moved first, scanning the area with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd survived by assuming every shadow held a threat. Only when he was satisfied did he gesture for the others to follow. They crossed the tarmac quickly, Hiroshi carrying Hannah, Dr. Sato with the medical bags, Ava bringing up the rear with the backpack. The heat was immediate and oppressive after the cool darkness of the truck. The pilot, a weathered white man in his 50s, nodded to Hiroshi. Fueled and ready. Flight plan filed for Vegas. You bringing trouble to my airfield, Takeda? Not if we leave in the next 3 minutes. Good enough. The pilot climbed into the cockpit without another word. The plane's cabin was small, 6 seats total, with the back 2 removed to make room for cargo. Dr. Sato immediately began securing their supplies, while Hiroshi buckled Hannah into a seat. The little girl's eyes were open but glassy with exhaustion. Are we flying, Papa? Yes, little flower. Like a bird. I like birds. Her voice was dreamy, disconnected. Fever or shock, or just too much fear for one small person to hold. Ava took the seat beside her, and immediately Hannah's hand found hers. The plane taxied, then lifted, Los Angeles falling away beneath them like a discarded memory. Through the small window, Ava watched the city shrink, the sprawl, the highways, the millions of people living normal lives while she flew toward Las Vegas in a plane running from assassins. Her phone buzzed. She'd forgotten she even had it. 12 missed calls from her mother. 6 from her roommate. 3 from the diner. Her shift had ended 7 hours ago. She was supposed to be home by 3 a.m., sleeping before her mother's doctor's appointment at noon. That world felt 1,000 miles away. You should call them, Hiroshi said, watching her stare at the screen. Your family. Let them know you're safe. And tell them what? That I'm on a plane to Vegas with a Yakuza boss and his daughter, while bounty hunters try to kill us. Ava's voice came out sharper than intended. Tell them you met someone who needed help. Tell them you'll be gone for a few days. Tell them you'll be compensated. He pulled out his own phone. Give me a number. I'll have money wired to your family today. Enough to cover whatever you're missing from work, plus more. I don't want. Your mother has stage 3 diabetes and hypertension, Hiroshi interrupted, his voice gentle but firm. The medications cost $400 a month even with insurance. You work double shifts to cover it. You have $17 in your checking account. Ava stared at him, ice flooding her veins. How do you know that? I had someone run a background check while we were at the gas station. Standard security protocol. He saw her expression and raised a hand. I'm not threatening you. I'm telling you I understand sacrifice. I understand what it means to put someone else's life before your own. He glanced at Hannah. Let me help. You've earned it. Ava wanted to refuse on principle, but she thought of her mother's prescription bottles, half empty, because they were rationing to make them last. Thought of the eviction notice she'd hidden in her dresser drawer, giving them 30 days to come up with back rent. Pride was a luxury she couldn't afford. Okay, she whispered. Hiroshi made a call, speaking rapid Japanese, then held out his phone to Ava. Bank account number and routing number. She gave them, feeling like she was selling something she couldn't name.
Done. $52,000.
Wired within the hour. 50,000? Ava's voice cracked. That's too much. It's not nearly enough for what you've done. For what you're still doing, Hiroshi pocketed his phone. Call your mother. Tell her you're safe. Tell her the money is from a security consulting job. Not far from the truth. Ava's hands shook as she dialed. Her mother answered on the first ring. Ava Marie Thompson. Where in God's name are you?
Manga. I'm okay.
I'm safe. Something came up at work, an emergency situation. I'm helping someone. I'll be gone for a few days. A few days? Baby, you can't just. There's money coming, Mama. A lot of it.
$52,000.
Going into the account today. For your medications, for rent, for everything. Ava's voice broke. You don't have to ration your insulin anymore. You hear me? You take what you need. Silence on the other end. Then, quietly, Ava, what did you do? I helped a little girl who needed help. That's all. I promise. You in trouble? Ava looked at Hiroshi, at Dr. Sato organizing medical supplies, at Hannah sleeping with her small hand wrapped around Ava's finger. I don't know, she answered honestly. But I'm doing the right thing. I know that much. Her mother sighed. The sound of a woman who'd spent her whole life watching her daughter make choices that were noble and reckless in equal measure. You always did have too much heart for your own good.
Call me every day.
You hear me? Every single day. I will. I love you, Mama. Love you too, baby. Be careful. The call ended, and Ava felt tears she hadn't known were building spill down her cheeks. Hiroshi pretended not to notice, looking out the window at the desert passing below. The flight took 90 minutes. They landed at a small private field north of Las Vegas, where 2 nondescript sedans were waiting. No SUVs this time, nothing that screamed money or power. Just regular cars with regular plates. They transferred quickly, Hannah barely waking. The drive into the city was surreal, passing casinos and hotels, tourists and bright lights, all the gaudy normalcy of Vegas, while carrying a child with a bounty on her head. The penthouse was in a building that didn't advertise wealth. Older construction, locals casino attached, nothing that would attract attention. They took a service elevator to the top floor, and Hiroshi unlocked a door that opened into unexpected luxury. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the strip. Modern furniture, fully stocked kitchen, 3 bedrooms. It looked like a place for quick business trips, not a safe house. The building's owned by a corporation that's owned by 3 other corporations, Hiroshi explained, carrying Hannah to the master bedroom. Kenji would need weeks to trace the ownership chain. We're safe here. For now. Dr. Sato began setting up a proper medical station while Hiroshi laid Hana on the bed. The little girl was barely conscious, fever spiking again from the stress of travel. She needs 4 fluids, Dr. Sato said, her voice tight with concern. And we need to manage this fever more aggressively. She worked quickly, starting in 4-line with the ease of long practice. Hana whimpered, but didn't fight, too exhausted to do more than clutch at Ava's hand. Hiroshi stood at the window, phone to his ear, speaking in that low, dangerous tone that meant planning violence. Ava caught fragments. Confirm Kenji's location? How many men with him? I want options by midnight. He ended the call and turned to find Ava watching him. My cousin is at the Win.
Pas tout de suite.
16 men with him, all armed. Hiroshi's voice was cold, calculated. He's here for a meeting with other West Coast families. Consolidating power. Showing everyone he's in control. He's here? In Vegas. Apparently he assumed I'd run somewhere international. Japan, maybe Taiwan. Somewhere with Yakuza connections. A grim smile touched Hiroshi's lips. He didn't expect me to run toward him. What are you going to do? End this. He looked at Hana, peaceful now with proper medication flowing into her veins. But not yet. Not until she's strong enough to be moved if something goes wrong. If you go after him, everything goes wrong, Ava said. You know that, right? There's no version of this where you kill your cousin and walk away clean. I know, Hiroshi's voice held no regret. But there's also no version where he stops hunting Hana. As long as he's alive, she'll never be safe. So the choice is simple. His life for hers. His life for hers, Hiroshi confirmed. Not even a choice, really. Dr. Sato emerged from the bedroom, closing the door softly. She's stable. Sleeping properly now. But she needs at least 12 hours of undisturbed rest. Hiroshi nodded. Then we have 12 hours to plan. He moved to the dining table, spreading out a tablet that showed building schematics, security layouts, shift schedules. Ava realized he'd been planning this since they got on the plane. Maybe longer. You should rest, Hiroshi told her without looking up. There's a guest room. Shower, clean clothes in the closet they should fit. What about you? I don't rest until she's safe. Not anymore. Ava looked at this man, this father who'd been a monster and was trying desperately to be something else. Trying and failing and trying again because the alternative was unthinkable. 12 hours, she said. Then what? Hiroshi finally looked up, and his eyes held nothing but dark purpose. Then I remind my cousin why everyone used to be afraid of the Takeda air. Ava woke to the sound of voices arguing in sharp Japanese. For a moment, she forgot where she was, then reality crashed back. Vegas. Penthouse. Running from bounty hunters and Yakuza betrayal. She checked her phone. 9:47 p.m. She'd slept for nearly 6 hours. The voices came from the living room. She stumbled out of the guest bedroom, still wearing the clothes someone had left for her. Simple black pants and a gray sweater that fit surprisingly well. Hiroshi stood at the dining table with 3 men she hadn't seen before. 2 looked like former military, buzz cuts, tactical bearing, the kind of stillness that came from combat experience. The third was older, maybe 60, with silver hair and expensive glasses, looking more like a lawyer than muscle. They all stopped talking when Ava appeared. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. You're not interrupting, Hiroshi gestured for her to join them. Ava, this is Tanaka, my head of security. Personally loyal. Not to the clan. These are his men, Chun and Rodriguez. The men nodded respectfully. Ava noticed they looked at her with something like curiosity mixed with respect. Tanaka-san has confirmed the situation, Hiroshi continued, switching back to English for Ava's benefit. Kenji is at the Win with 16 soldiers. He's meeting with the Gotogumi and the Sanyi on Triad representatives tomorrow at noon, trying to secure their support for taking over all West Coast operations. If he gets that support, Tanaka added, his English crisp and British accented, he becomes untouchable. The other families will back him, and anyone who opposes him, including Takeda-san, becomes an enemy of multiple organizations. So we move before the meeting, Hiroshi said. Tonight. Respectfully, boss, that's suicide. Chin spoke up, his voice carrying a slight Texas drawl. 16 armed men in a fortified position. Even if we had a full team. We don't need to fight 16 men. Hiroshi pulled up something on the tablet, a schedule. Kenji has a habit. Every night at 11 p.m., he goes to the poker room on the 3rd floor. Private game, high stakes. He takes only 2 bodyguards, doesn't want to look weak in front of the gamblers. The rest of his men stay at the penthouse. So we hit him in the poker room, Rodriguez said, leaning forward. No, the silver-haired man, the one who looked like a lawyer, spoke for the first time. We don't hit him at all. Not directly. Everyone looked at him. Fukuda-san is right, Hiroshi said. Direct assassination would start a war. Every family would be forced to choose sides. It would be chaos. Then what's the play?
Tanaka asked.
Fukuda adjusted his glasses. We give Kenji exactly what he wants. We make him think he's won. Ava watched the men exchange looks, saw the understanding dawn on their faces. She felt like she was missing something crucial. I don't understand, she admitted. Hiroshi turned to her. Kenji doesn't just want me dead. He wants me humiliated, broken, begging. He wants me to come to him and acknowledge that he's stronger, smarter, better. That's why he took Hannah, to force me to my knees. So you're going to…
What?
Pretend to surrender? Not pretend, Hiroshi's voice was ice. I'm going to walk into that poker room, alone and unarmed, and offer him a deal. My life and my businesses in exchange for Hannah's safety. A formal transfer of power, witnessed by the other players. That's insane, Ava said. He'll just kill you both. He'll kill me, Hiroshi corrected. But not immediately. He'll want to savor it, make a show of it. And that's when… A sound from the bedroom cut him off. A small, frightened cry. Ava was moving before she thought about it, rushing to the master bedroom. Hannah was sitting up in bed, the 4 pulled out of her arm, blood spotting the sheets. Her eyes were wide and panicked.
Ava.
Where's Papa? Where? I'm here, little flower. Hiroshi was right behind Ava, scooping Hannah up despite Dr. Sato's protests about the 4. I'm right here. I had a bad dream. The bad men came, and you were gone, and Ava was gone, and I was alone, and… The words tumbled out in a terrified rush, half English, half Japanese. Shush.
Just a dream.
We're here. We're all here. Hiroshi held her close, and Ava saw his hands trembling, the only sign of how much fear he was carrying. Dr. Sato managed to restart the 4 while Hiroshi held Hannah, distracting her with soft words. When the little girl finally calmed down enough to look around, her eyes found Ava. You didn't leave. I promised I wouldn't, Ava said, moving to sit on the edge of the bed. Remember? Hannah reached out, and Ava took her hand. The little girl looked at her father, then back at Ava. Are you going to be my new mama? The question hit the room like a bomb. Hiroshi froze. Dr. Sato suddenly found something very interesting to examine on her medical equipment. The security team in the living room had gone completely silent. Ava's throat closed up. Sweetie, My old mama went to heaven, Hannah continued, her voice matter-of-fact in the way only children could be about devastating things. Papa said she watches over me, from the stars. But stars are far away. You're here. And you hold my hand and sing to me and you smell nice. She said it all like it was the most logical conclusion in the world. Ava felt tears burning behind her eyes. Your papa and we just met. I'm just helping for a little while. But you'll stay? After the bad men are gone. Hiroshi's eyes met Ava's over Hannah's head, and in them she saw a question, a hope, a desperate plea for something he had no right to ask. I'll stay as long as you need me, Ava said carefully. How about that? Hannah seemed to consider this, then nodded. Okay, but Papa? Can she stay for a really long time? Like, forever long. We'll see, little flower, Hiroshi said softly. First, we need to make sure you're safe. Then we can talk about forever. Hannah's eyes were already drooping again, the medication and exhaustion pulling her back under. Promise you won't go fight the bad men without saying goodbye. Hiroshi's jaw tightened. I promise. Within minutes, Hannah was asleep again. Dr. Sato checked her vitals, confirmed she was stable, and quietly left the room with the others, giving Hiroshi and Ava a moment alone. I'm sorry, Hiroshi said quietly. She doesn't understand. She understands that her father loves her. That's all that matters. Ava stood up, her body aching with exhaustion and emotion. But you can't go through with this plan. That little girl in there needs her father. Not revenge. Not honor. Just her dad, alive and there for her. You think I don't know that? Hiroshi's voice cracked. Every instinct I have says to grab her and run. Keep running until we're somewhere they can't find us. But that's not a life. That's a cage. And eventually, they would find us anyway. He looked at his daughter's sleeping face. The only way she's truly safe is if Kenji is gone. And the only way Kenji goes away without starting a war that destroys everything is if you sacrifice yourself. Yes, that's not a plan. That's suicide with extra steps. Hiroshi almost smiled. My men will be positioned. The moment Kenji thinks he's won, the moment he drops his guard, they move. It's not suicide. It's strategy. And if it goes wrong, then Tanaka has instructions. Hannah gets moved to Japan, to people I trust outside the clan. She'll be protected. She'll have money, education, everything she needs. He paused. And I've arranged for you to receive $2 million. For what you've done. For what you've given her. I don't want your blood money. It's not blood money. It's gratitude. Hiroshi moved toward the door, then stopped. She asked if you'd be her new mother. I saw your face. You wanted to say yes. Ava's silence was answer enough. When this is over, Hiroshi said quietly, if I survive, if we all survive, I'd like the chance to ask you properly. To give Hannah the family she deserves. The family I never thought I'd be able to give her. You don't even know me. I know you held my daughter while people shot at us. I know you stayed when you could have run. I know she feels safer with you than she has with anyone since her mother died. He looked back at her, and his eyes held something raw and honest. That's enough to know you're extraordinary. The rest we can learn. Before Ava could respond, Rodriguez appeared in the doorway. Boss, we've got a problem. They returned to the living room, where Tanaka was staring at his laptop with a grim expression. 3 cars just pulled into the parking garage. Thermal imaging shows at least 12 individuals, all armed. They're sweeping the building floor by floor. How did they find us? Chun demanded. Fukuda was already typing on his own tablet. The wire transfer. Someone was watching for large financial movements connected to Takeda-san. They tracked the recipient, Ava's mother, and worked backwards. Ava's blood turned to ice. My mother? Are they? She's safe, Fukuda assured her. They're only tracking digitally, not physically. But they know you're in Vegas. And they're searching every property that could be connected. Hiroshi's face had gone cold and calculating. How long until they reach this floor? 20 minutes. Maybe less. Then we don't have time for the poker room plan. Hiroshi looked at his men. We move now. Alternative route. The private airport on the edge of town. We get Hannah on a plane to San Francisco, then Seattle, then Vancouver. By the time they figure out the trail, she'll be in Japan. And you? Tanaka asked. I'll stay. Draw them off. Give you time to get her out. No, Ava said. Everyone looked at her. No more splitting up. No more sacrifices. We all go, or none of us do. That's not. She's right, boss, Rodriguez said quietly. We're stronger together. And if they've found this place, they'll find wherever we send Hannah next. The only way forward is through. Hiroshi looked at each of them, then back at the bedroom where his daughter slept. Wake, Dr. Sato. Get Hannah ready to move. We leave in 5 minutes. The room exploded into controlled chaos. And Ava realized the running wasn't over. It had just begun. They had 4 minutes. Dr. Sato disconnected Hana's for while the little girl blinked awake, confused and frightened. Hiroshi wrapped her in a blanket, speaking softly in Japanese, lies about going on an adventure, about how brave she was being. Tanaka and his men moved with military precision, checking weapons, clearing exit routes, communicating through earpieces in clipped tactical language. Ava grabbed the backpack with Hana's medications, her hands steadier than she'd expected. Maybe adrenaline. Maybe she was just getting used to running for her life. Service elevator to the parking garage is compromised, Chen reported, checking his phone. They've got men stationed there. Front elevator is... He paused, listening to his earpiece. Front elevator just started moving. Coming up. Roof access. Rodriguez suggested.
No helicopter.
Would take 20 minutes to get one here. Hiroshi was thinking fast, his eyes scanning the penthouse like he was calculating trajectories and angles. The casino. We go through the casino floor, too public for them to make an obvious move. Out the side entrance to the valet, take the first available car. That's a terrible plan, Tanaka said flatly. You have a better one? Silence. Casino it is. Hiroshi adjusted Hana in his arms. Ava, stay close to me. Dr. Sato, you're with Rodriguez. Tanaka and Chun, you're on point. We move fast, but not obviously. Just another family leaving after a late dinner. With assault rifles under our coats, Chun muttered, but he was already moving toward the door. They slipped out of the penthouse and into the hallway. Expensive carpet, soft lighting, the muted ding of elevator bells. Normal. Almost peaceful. The peace lasted exactly 12 seconds. The elevator at the end of the hall opened, and 4 men stepped out, dark suits, obvious weapons, eyes scanning professionally. They saw Hiroshi immediately. Time crystallized. Run! Tanaka shouted, pushing Dr. Sato toward the emergency stairs. The shooting started. Ava felt Hiroshi's hand clamp around her arm, dragging her forward as bullets chewed through wallpaper and expensive art. Chun and Rodriguez returned fire, their shots deafening in the enclosed space. They crashed through the emergency exit door, footsteps thundering on metal stairs. Hana was crying now, her hands pressed over her ears, her small body shaking in her father's arms. Keep moving, Hiroshi commanded. Down to 3, then through the fire door to the casino floor. They descended in controlled chaos. 2 floors, 3 floors. Behind them, the emergency door crashed open. Shouts in Japanese and English. More footsteps pounding after them. At the 3rd floor landing, Rodriguez kicked open the fire door. They spilled out into a service corridor, linens, cleaning supplies, the mechanical sounds of a working casino. A housekeeper screamed and dropped her towels. Go, go, go. Tanaka urged them forward. Through another door, and suddenly they were in the casino, a sensory assault of lights, sounds, cigarette smoke, and the electronic symphony of slot machines. Elderly tourists and serious gamblers looked up in confusion as 7 people burst onto the floor. Walk, Hiroshi commanded sharply. Don't run. Walk purposefully. They moved through the maze of machines and tables, Hiroshi cradling Hana like she was just a sleeping child. Nothing wrong, just a father carrying his tired daughter. Ava stayed glued to his side, her heart slamming against her ribs. Dr. Sato and Rodriguez peeled off toward a different exit, splitting up to confuse pursuit. Chun stayed with Tanaka, flanking Hiroshi like protective shadows. Behind them, Ava caught glimpses of the men from the hallway entering the casino floor, trying to look casual and failing. Casino security was starting to notice. Something was wrong, but they couldn't quite identify what. Side exit, Hiroshi muttered. 30 meters. They were halfway there when everything went to hell. One of the pursuers pulled his gun, a stupid, desperate move in full view of cameras and witnesses. Someone screamed. Then everyone was screaming. The casino erupted into chaos, people diving behind slot machines, cards scattering, chips flying. Security guards shouted into radios, hands reaching for weapons they barely knew how to use. Now we run. Hiroshi took off, Hana clutched against his chest. Ava sprinted after him, her Waitress sneakers gripping the tacky casino carpet. Chun and Tanaka formed a protective triangle around them, weapons now openly visible. Gunshots cracked through the air, not many, but enough. A slot machine exploded in sparks. Glass shattered somewhere behind them. They hit the side exit at full speed, bursting out into the night air of Las Vegas. Bright lights, traffic, the normalcy of the Strip contrasting horrifically with the violence they were fleeing. Car. Tanaka pointed to a black sedan idling at the valet stand, some businessman's rental, keys probably still in the ignition. They didn't ask permission. Chun yanked open the door, shoved the confused valet aside, and Hiroshi dove into the back seat with Hana. Ava piled in after him. Tanaka took the wheel, Chun riding shotgun literally, assault rifle, across his lap. The engine roared to life just as their pursuers burst through the same exit. More gunshots. The rear window cracked but didn't shatter. Bulletproof glass, Ava realized with shock. What were the odds? Not odds, Hiroshi said, reading her expression. This is one of mine. I have vehicles stationed around the city. Just in case. You're terrifyingly prepared, Ava breathed. You're only paranoid until someone actually tries to kill you. Then you're just realistic. Tanaka floored it, the sedan shooting into traffic with the smooth power of high-end German engineering. Behind them, two vehicles gave chase, the SUVs from the parking garage, now openly pursuing through Vegas traffic. They're not even trying to be subtle anymore, Chun observed, checking the side mirror. Because Kenji knows we're running out of places to run, Hiroshi said grimly. He looked down at Hana, who was sobbing quietly against his chest, her small body shaking with fear and exhaustion. It's okay, little flower. Papa's got you. Ava's here. We're okay. But they weren't okay. They were in a stolen car, being chased by Yakuza soldiers through Las Vegas at midnight, with a sick child and nowhere safe to go. Where to, boss? Tanaka asked, weaving through traffic with precision. The airport. The private hangar at Henderson Executive. We still have the plane option. Hiroshi's phone buzzed. He checked it, and his face went pale. Scratch that. They've got people at all three airports. We're boxed in. Then we fight, Chun said simply. Not with Hana in the car, Hiroshi was thinking, calculating. Industrial District. East Side. There's a warehouse complex my cousin uses for storage. He won't expect us to go there. That's because it's suicidal, Tanaka pointed out, but he was already turning east, away from the glittering lights of the Strip toward the darker, industrial edge of the city. The pursuing vehicles stayed close, sometimes dropping back, sometimes surging forward, herding them like wolves with prey. They're corralling us, Chun said, pushing us exactly where they want us to go. I know, Hiroshi's voice was grim, but right now the only way out is through. They drove in tense silence, the city transforming around them, casinos giving way to strip malls to warehouses, warehouses to empty lots and industrial buildings lit by sodium lights. Tanaka pulled into a complex of connected warehouses, older buildings with loading docks and rusted metal siding. He killed the headlights, coasting to a stop behind a dumpster. Now what? Ava whispered. Hiroshi looked at his daughter, then at her. Now we stop running. We end this tonight.
How?
He pulled his gun, checked the magazine with practiced efficiency. Kenji wants me? He can have me. But on my terms. In my territory. This is his warehouse, Tanaka reminded him. That's what makes it my territory. He won't expect it, Hiroshi looked at Chun. Call Rodriguez and Dr. Sato. Tell them to get to the rendezvous point. If we don't make it, they extract Hana and follow Protocol 7-inch. Chun nodded, already dialing. Ava grabbed Hiroshi's arm. You can't seriously be planning to fight them here.
You'll die.
Maybe, he covered her hand with his. But Hana lives. That's the only calculation that matters. Behind them, the SUVs pulled into the warehouse complex, headlights cutting through the darkness like searchlights. The hunters had caught up to their prey. And now the real fight would begin. The warehouse smelled like motor oil and old concrete. Hiroshi moved through the darkness with Hana clutched against his chest, Ava and his men following in tight formation. Their footsteps echoed off metal walls and empty, loading docks. There, Tanaka whispered, pointing to a freight elevator at the far end. Second floor has offices and a catwalk system. Better defensive position. They moved quickly, the elevator groaning as it carried them up. Through the rusted metal grating, Ava could see the main warehouse floor below, rows of shipping containers, forklifts, pallets stacked with covered cargo. A maze of shadows and hiding places. The elevator lurched to a stop. They emerged onto a metal catwalk that ran the perimeter of the building, connecting to glass-walled offices that looked down on the warehouse floor. Chin checked the offices quickly.
Clear.
Third one has a back exit, fire escape to the roof. Hana goes there with Ava, Hiroshi said, his tone leaving no room for argument. Behind the desk, away from windows. If shooting starts, you take that fire escape and run. Don't look back. And leave you too. Yes, his eyes locked onto hers. Someone has to make sure she lives through this. That someone is you. Before Ava could argue, Tanaka's radio crackled. Boss, they're coming in. Front and rear entrances. At least 10 men, possibly more. Hiroshi handed Hana to Ava. The little girl's eyes were wide with terror, her breathing starting to wheeze again despite the medications. Ava, Hana whispered, her small hands clutching Ava's shirt. I'm scared. I know, baby. Me too. Ava carried her into the third office, crouching behind the heavy metal desk. Through the window, she could see Hiroshi and his men taking positions along the catwalk. 3 men against at least 10. The mathematics of it were horrible. The warehouse's main doors screeched open. Flashlight beams cut through the darkness below, and men poured in, moving in tactical formation, checking corners, clearing spaces with military efficiency. Takeda! A voice echoed through the warehouse, younger than Hiroshi's, with that same Japanese accent but sharper, crueler. I know you're here. I can smell your desperation.
Kenji.
Ava shifted to peek through the office window. On the warehouse floor, a man stepped into a pool of light, tall, expensively dressed, looking like Hiroshi might look if all the humanity had been burned out of him. He held a pistol casually, like it was an extension of his hand. You've led me on quite a chase, cousin, Kenji continued, his voice carrying easily in the cavernous space. Los Angeles, Malibu, now Vegas. Very creative. But it ends now. Send down my niece, and I'll make your death quick. You have my word. Hiroshi stepped forward on the catwalk, into view but out of easy range. Your word means nothing. You killed my wife. You tried to kill my daughter. I eliminated obstacles to the family's future, Kenji corrected. Your wife made you soft. Your daughter makes you weak. The Takeda Gumi needs strength, not this pathetic American dream you're chasing. The Takeda Gumi needs honor, something you know nothing about. Kenji laughed, a cold, empty sound. Honor? You speak of honor while hiding behind a black waitress and sick child? Where's the honor in that? Ava felt Hana stiffen in her arms at those words. The little girl's small voice came out surprisingly clear. Don't talk about Ava like that. She saved me. You tried to kill me. Every head in the warehouse turned toward the office window. Hana, no. Ava whispered, but it was too late. Kenji's smile widened. Ah, there she is. Brave little thing. Just like her mother, he raised his gun, aiming lazily at the office. Last chance, cousin. Send her down, or I come up and take her. You want her? Hiroshi's voice went cold, deadly. Come and get her. Everything exploded at once. Hiroshi's men opened fire from the catwalk, bullets sparking off metal and concrete. Kenji's soldiers scattered, taking cover behind containers and forklifts, returning fire in disciplined bursts. The office window shattered. Ava threw herself over Hana, glass raining down on them both. The little girl screamed, and Ava felt the sound tear through her chest like a physical thing. Fire escape, Chen's voice shouted from somewhere. Go now. Ava grabbed Hana and ran, staying low, heading for the back door. Behind her, She heard the deafening percussion of gunfire, men shouting, metal ringing as bullets found their targets. She hit the fire escape door with her shoulder, bursting out into the night air. The metal stairs rattled under her feet as she climbed, Hannah clinging to her neck. Up one flight.
2.
The roof, flat, covered in gravel and HVAC equipment. Nowhere to hide. Nowhere to run. Ava ducked behind an air conditioning unit, her lungs burning, Hannah sobbing against her chest. Below, the firefight continued. She could hear it through the roof access door she'd come through. Then, terrifyingly, footsteps on the metal stairs. Someone was following them. Ava looked around desperately. No weapons, no exits, nothing but open roof and a 3-story drop to concrete. The footsteps grew closer. The door burst open, and a man stepped out, one of Kenji's soldiers, gun raised. He saw Ava and Hannah immediately, smiled, started to raise his weapon. A gunshot cracked through the night. The man dropped, a red bloom spreading across his chest. Behind him, on the stairs, stood Rodriguez, his face grim, smoking gun in his hand. Dr. Sato's got the car running 2 blocks east, he said quickly. We need to move now. What about Hiroshi? Boss is handling it. Our job is to get the girl out, he grabbed Ava's arm. Come on. They ran back down the fire escape, taking a different route, circling around the building. More gunshots echoed from inside the warehouse, the sounds more sporadic now, dying down. Someone was winning. Ava prayed it was the right someone. They reached street level and sprinted through an alley, Rodriguez leading. 2 blocks felt like 2 miles with Hannah's weight and her own exhausted legs. Dr. Sato's sedan was idling at the corner, back door open. They dove inside, Rodriguez sliding into the front passenger seat. Drive, he ordered. The car lurched forward, tires squealing. Where's Hiroshi? Dr. Sato demanded, her knuckles white on the steering wheel. Where's Tanaka and Chen? Still inside. Boss's orders, get Hannah out first. Ava held the little girl close, feeling her heart hammering like a trapped bird. We can't just leave him. We follow orders, Rodriguez said flatly. But his hand was clenched into a fist, and his jaw was tight with barely controlled emotion. They drove for 5 minutes in tense silence. Then Rodriguez's radio crackled. Rodriguez. Status. Tanaka's voice, strained but alive. Package secure. We're clear.
Good.
Rendezvous at Point Delta. Boss is static. Then, boss is finishing the conversation. The radio went dead. Ava's blood turned to ice. What does that mean? Finishing the conversation? No one answered. Dr. Sato pulled into an abandoned parking lot behind a closed restaurant. They sat in the darkness, engine idling, waiting. Hannah had gone quiet. Not peaceful, but the exhausted quiet of a child who'd cried all her tears. Her breathing was wheezing again, stress triggering another asthma response. Dr. Sato immediately began administering treatment, but her hands were shaking. They waited. 5 minutes.
10.
15. Then headlights cut through the darkness, a vehicle approaching fast. Rodriguez's gun came up, pointed at the windshield. The vehicle stopped. A door opened. Hiroshi stepped out alone. His suit was torn, splattered with blood. His or someone else's? Ava couldn't tell. His face was expressionless, empty of everything. He walked to their car, opened the back door, and looked at his daughter. It's over, he said quietly. Kenji is dead. His men scattered. It's over. Hannah looked at her father, really looked at him. Then, in a small voice, Papa, are you okay? Something in Hiroshi's face cracked. He reached in and pulled his daughter into his arms, holding her like she might disappear if he let go. I'm okay, little flower. We're all okay now. It was a lie. Ava could see it in his eyes, in the tremor of his hands, in the way he held himself like something inside him had broken and would never quite fit back together. He'd killed his own cousin, ended his family's bloodline, crossed a line there was no coming back from. But Hannah was alive. And sometimes that's all that mattered. Where do we go now? Dr. Sato asked. Hiroshi looked up at the Vegas sky, neon and stars and the artificial glow of a city that never slept. Away, he said. Far away. Somewhere they can't find us. Somewhere she can be a child instead of a target. Where's Tanaka and Chun? Rodriguez asked. Cleaning up. Making sure there are no loose ends. Hiroshi's voice was flat, mechanical. They'll meet us later. He climbed into the car with Hannah still in his arms, and Ava shifted to make room. Dr. Sato put the car in drive and they pulled out of the parking lot, leaving the warehouse district and whatever had happened inside that building behind them. Ava looked at Hiroshi, saw the blood on his hands, the emptiness in his eyes, and understood. He'd traded pieces of his soul for his daughter's life. And he'd do it again. Without hesitation. They drove east into the desert, leaving Las Vegas bleeding neon behind them. Dr. Sato pushed the sedan to 90, the highway stretching before them like a dark ribbon under stars that seemed impossibly bright after the artificial lights of the city. Hannah had fallen into an exhausted sleep against Hiroshi's chest, her breathing still rough but steady. Dr. Sato had done what she could in the parking lot. Nebulizer treatment, medication, monitoring, but the little girl needed real rest in a real bed, somewhere without gunfire and running. Hiroshi hadn't spoken since they left Vegas. He sat perfectly still, his arms around his daughter, his eyes fixed on nothing. Blood had dried on his shirt collar, a spray pattern that made Ava's stomach turn when she looked at it too long. Boss, Rodriguez said quietly from the front seat. Tanaka just texted. They're clear. Evidence destroyed. Kenji's men are scattered, some heading back to California, some probably going to ground. Without leadership, they're not a threat. Hiroshi nodded once but said nothing. The other families? Dr. Sato asked, her eyes on the rearview mirror, always watching. Tanaka's reaching out through back channels, explaining what happened. That Kenji violated the old codes by targeting a child. That Takeda-san acted in defense of his daughter, not as an act of war. Rodriguez paused. They'll have to decide if they accept that narrative. And if they don't, Ava heard herself ask. Then we keep running. Hiroshi's voice was rough and used. But I don't think they will. Kenji was ambitious, sloppy. He made enemies with his grab for power. My informants say at least 2 families were planning to move against him after the meeting. I just accelerated the timeline. The highway cut through nothing, desert and darkness and the occasional ghost town with boarded windows and faded signs. America's forgotten places, where people went to disappear. After an hour, Dr. Sato pulled off at a rest stop, just bathrooms and vending machines and empty parking spaces under harsh fluorescent lights. I need to check Hannah properly, she said. And we all need to clean up before we cross any state lines. You look like you walked out of a crime scene, boss. Because you did. They moved quickly. Dr. Sato took Hannah into the women's restroom to check her vitals. Rodriguez stood watch outside. Hiroshi went to clean himself up, and Ava found herself alone by the vending machines, staring at candy bars and chips like they were artifacts from another world. A world where her biggest problem was affording her mother's medication. That was yesterday. A lifetime ago. Her phone buzzed, her mother calling for the 4th time today. Ava answered.
Manga.
Baby, where are you? The money came through like you said, but you sound. Are you okay? I'm in the middle of the desert somewhere east of Las Vegas, and I just watched a man kill his cousin to save his daughter's life, and I'm pretty sure I'll never be the same person I was 3 days ago. She didn't say any of that.
Imoke. Manga.
It's complicated, but I'm okay. The situation is resolving. I'll be home soon. Soon like tomorrow? Soon like I honestly don't know. Her mother was quiet for a long moment. This little girl you're helping. She important to you? Ava thought of Hannah's hand in hers, her small voice asking if Ava would be her new mama, the absolute trust in her eyes. Yeah, Ava whispered. Yeah, she's important. Then you do what you need to do. But you come home to me when it's done, you hear? I didn't raise you to disappear into someone else's life. I hear you, Mama. I love you. Love you too, baby. The call ended just as Hiroshi emerged from the men's room. He'd changed into clothes from an emergency bag in the trunk, simple jeans and a black sweater, his hair wet from washing. He looked younger somehow, more human, less like a Yakuza enforcer, and more like just a tired father. "Your mother?" he asked, seeing the phone in her hand.
Yeah.
"Reminding me I have a life to get back to."
Do you?
"Want to get back to it." He moved to stand beside her, both of them staring at the vending machine's fluorescent glow. The diner shifts, the rent payments, the constant struggle to keep your head above water. "It's my life," Ava said. But the words felt hollow. It could be different. Better. Easier. Hiroshi pulled out his wallet, fed bills into the machine, selected a candy bar at random. "I meant what I said before. About wanting you in Hannah's life. In our lives." "You don't know me, Hiroshi."
Not really.
3 days in a crisis doesn't. 3 days in a crisis shows you exactly who someone is, he interrupted. "I've known people for years who betrayed me the moment it was convenient. You could have walked away a dozen times. Could have left us at that gas station, at the Malibu house, in that parking lot in Vegas. But you didn't. Because a child needed help. Because you're the kind of person who doesn't walk away when someone needs help. That's rare. Precious." He finally looked at her directly. "I'm not asking you to marry me tomorrow. I'm not even asking you to move in.
I'm asking.
Let us be part of your life. Let Hannah know you. Let me figure out if what I'm feeling is gratitude or something more." "What are you feeling?" Hiroshi was quiet, considering. "Like maybe I could build something real. Not Yakuza connections or business fronts or tactical advantages.
Just
A family. A strange, complicated, beautiful family born from the worst night of our lives." Dr. Sato emerged from the restroom with Hannah, who was awake now, looking around with drowsy confusion. She saw Ava and immediately reached out. "Ava? Are we still running?" "No, baby," Ava said, moving to take her hand. "No more running. Not tonight. Where are we going?" Hiroshi crouched down to his daughter's level. "Somewhere safe. Somewhere you can rest and be a little girl and not be scared anymore. Would you like that?" Hannah nodded, then looked between her father and Ava. "Both of you? Together?" "Yes," Hiroshi said, his eyes on Ava. "If Ava wants to. For as long as she wants to." Ava felt the weight of the question, not just for tonight, but for all the nights after. The choice between going back to her cramped apartment and double shifts and struggling to survive, or stepping into this strange new world where a little girl needed her and a complicated man was offering something she couldn't quite name. It should have been an easy decision: go home, back to normal, back to safe. But when she looked at Hannah's hopeful face, she realized normal had never felt much like home anyway. "Okay," Ava heard herself say. "Okay, we'll figure it out. Together." Hannah's face lit up with a smile, the first real smile Ava had seen from her. It transformed her completely, showing the happy child buried under all that fear and trauma. "Really? You'll stay?" "I'll stay close. I promise." They piled back into the car, Hannah insisting on sitting between Ava and Hiroshi in the back seat, holding both their hands. Dr. Sato drove, and Rodriguez navigated, and they headed deeper into the desert toward the Arizona border. Toward whatever came next. Behind them, the Vegas lights faded to nothing. Ahead, the sky began to lighten. Not sunrise yet, but the promise of it. That deep blue that comes before dawn. "Where exactly are we going?" Ava asked. "Phoenix, then Tucson, then a small town near the border where I have a safe house." From there, Hiroshi squeezed Hannah's hand gently. "From there, we start over. New identities, if necessary. New life, definitely. Hannah becomes just another American kid in school. I become just another businessman. You become your partner in crime?" Ava suggested with a tired smile. "I was going to say family, but I like yours better." They drove through the last of the night, watching the desert transform in the growing light. Hannah fell asleep again, her head on Ava's shoulder, her small hand still clutching tight. And Ava realized that 3 days ago, she'd been a waitress with nothing but debt and exhaustion and a future that looked exactly like her past. Now she was something else entirely. She didn't have a word for it yet, but sitting in that car, holding a child who'd chosen her, with a man who'd killed to protect his daughter and was now trusting Ava with both their futures, she thought maybe it felt something like hope. Complicated, terrifying, bloody hope. But hope nonetheless. The sun crested the horizon, painting the desert gold and red and impossible shades of promise. And they drove into it, leaving death behind, carrying life forward. Together. 1 week later, Scottsdale, Arizona. The park was quiet in the morning, just a few joggers and dog walkers enjoying the cool air before the desert heat arrived. Ava sat on a wooden bench under a Palo Verde tree, a coffee from the shop across the street warming her hands. She'd been staying in a modest hotel nearby, separate from Hiroshi and Hannah, keeping some distance, some normalcy, while everything settled. The $50,000 had become $100,000, enough that she'd paid off her mother's medical bills, the back rent, and still had more than she'd ever imagined having. Her mother thought she was consulting on a security case. Not entirely a lie. Her phone showed 3 missed calls from the diner. She'd have to call Mr. Chin eventually, explained she wasn't coming back. The thought should have scared her, walking away from the only steady job she'd had in years. Instead, she felt light.
Free.
Footsteps on the path made her look up. Hiroshi walked toward her, and Ava's breath caught. He looked different. The expensive suit was gone, replaced by jeans and a simple button-down shirt. His hair was styled more casually. He looked like any other father spending a Sunday morning at the park. Beside him, holding his hand, was Hannah. The little girl wore a yellow sundress with white flowers, her hair pulled back in 2 small ponytails. She was smiling, a real, bright smile, and when she saw Ava, she broke into a run.
Ava.
Ava, you came. Ava stood up just in time to catch the small body launching into her arms. She lifted Hannah up, spinning her once, feeling the little girl's laughter vibrate through both of them. Of course I came. I promised, didn't I? Papa said you might be busy. But I knew you'd come. I knew it. Hannah pulled back to look at Ava's face, her small hands on Ava's cheeks. You always keep your promises. Ava's throat tightened. I try, baby. I really try. Hiroshi reached them, and there was something different in his eyes too, something lighter, softer. The weight he'd been carrying seemed less crushing somehow. She's been talking about seeing you all morning, he said. Barely ate breakfast because she was so excited. I wasn't that bad, Hannah protested, but she was grinning. They walked through the park together, Hannah between them, holding both their hands. She chattered about the new apartment they'd moved into. It has 2 bathrooms, Ava. 2. And the school Hiroshi was enrolling her in. Papa says I can take art classes. And the cat they'd seen yesterday that she desperately wanted to adopt. Normal conversation. Normal problems. It felt like a miracle. They reached a small playground, and Hannah ran off to the swings, her laughter carrying across the empty park. Hiroshi and Ava sat on a bench nearby, watching her. She's doing better, Ava observed. Really better. Dr. Sato says her lung function is improving. The stress-induced attacks are less frequent now that she feels safe, Hiroshi paused. She asks about you every day. When you're coming over. If you'll stay for dinner. If you'll read her a story before bed. I've only been gone 3 days. 3 days is a long time when you're 5 and you've found someone who makes you feel safe, he looked at Ava. I called my contacts in Japan. The families have accepted what happened with Kenji. They're ruling it justified under the old codes. He violated sacred law by targeting a child. There's no war.
No bounty. No revenge.
Ava felt tension. She didn't know she'd been holding release from her shoulders. So it's really over? The immediate danger is over. But I'm done with that life. Completely done. I'm liquidating my business interests in California, moving everything here. Legitimate companies only, real estate, import-export, all clean. He watched Hannah on the swings. I want her to have a normal life. School plays and birthday parties, and worrying about homework instead of bullets. That's a good dream. It's not just a dream, he turned to face her fully. I meant what I said, Ava. About wanting you in our lives. Not as an employee or a bodyguard, or someone I'm paying off. As family, Hiroshi. I know it's fast. I know it's strange. I know you have every reason to walk away and never look back, he took a breath. But Hannah loves you.
And I.
I think I could love you too. If you gave me the chance. If you gave us the chance. Ava looked at him. This complicated, dangerous, gentle man who'd killed to protect his daughter and was now offering her something she'd never thought she'd have again. A family. I lost my daughter 3 years ago, Ava said quietly.
To the system.
I couldn't afford a lawyer. Couldn't prove I was stable enough. They took her and placed her with another family. I haven't seen her since tears burned her eyes. I never thought I'd get to be a mother again. Even a part-time, unofficial, still figuring it out mother. Hiroshi's hand covered hers.
I'm sorry.
I didn't know. How could you? We've known each other less than 2 weeks. Ava laughed, but it came out wet, broken. This is crazy. All of this is completely insane. Yes, Hiroshi agreed. But is it the good kind of crazy, or the bad kind? Ava watched Hannah on the swings, pumping her legs, reaching for the sky, fearless in the way children should be allowed to be fearless. The good kind, she whispered. Definitely the good kind. So you'll stay? Not in a hotel. Not at arm's length. Really stay. Ava turned to look at him, saw the hope and fear and desperate need in his eyes, the same emotions she felt tangled in her own chest.
Yeah, she said.
Yeah, I'll stay. Hiroshi's smile was like sunrise, slow, warm, transforming his entire face. Hannah, he called. Come here for a moment. The little girl jumped off the swing mid-arc, landing with practiced ease, and ran over.
What?
What is it? Ava has something to tell you. Hannah looked up at Ava with those wide, hopeful eyes. What? Ava crouched down to her level, taking both small hands in hers. How would you feel about me moving to Arizona? Being around more? Having dinner with you and your papa, going to your school things, being part of your family? Hannah's eyes went impossibly wider. Really? You mean really, really? Really, really? The little girl threw her arms around Ava's neck with enough force to nearly knock them both over.
Yes.
Yes, yes, yes. Papa, she's staying. She's really staying. Hiroshi laughed, a sound Ava hadn't heard before, genuine and free and filled with something that sounded like joy. They stayed at the park for another hour. Hannah made them both push her on the swings, showed them how high she could climb on the jungle gym, insisted they all go down the slide together, even though none of them really fit. They were a strange picture. A Japanese father, a black woman, and a little girl who belonged to both of them, and neither of them, and somehow completely to all three. A family born from chaos. A family that shouldn't work, but somehow did. As they walked out of the park together, Hannah in the middle holding both their hands, Ava thought about the woman she'd been a week ago. Exhausted, struggling, seeing nothing ahead but more of the same. That woman had heard a cry in an alley and made a choice. And that choice had led here. To sunshine and laughter, and a little girl who trusted her. To a complicated man learning how to be gentle. To a future that looked nothing like anything she'd planned and everything like something she'd needed without knowing it. Ice cream? Hannah asked hopefully. Can we get ice cream? It's 9:30 in the morning, Hiroshi pointed out. That's not a no, Hannah said with devastating 5-year-old logic. Hiroshi looked at Ava, one eyebrow raised in question. Ava grinned. I think ice cream for breakfast sounds perfect. They walked into the morning light, 3 figures casting one shadow, toward ice cream and new beginnings and all the beautiful, terrifying, ordinary days that waited ahead. Behind them, the park stood empty and peaceful.
No gunfire.
No running. No fear. Just a bench under a tree where a family had been born. And that was enough. More than enough.